And continuing on with May books, this is the culture section, but it's also got some other kind of stuff. Kind of random culture and criticism and random kind of stuff. So starting with, here's Mises, the Anti-Capitalist Mentality. It's not a very long book. It's about, well, it's 100 pages, but it's got big font and large margins, so it probably could have been 60 pages. The anti-capitalistic mentality. It's got some pretty interesting chapters here. The social characteristics of capitalism and the psychological causes of its vilification. Here's another one. The ordinary man's social philosophy. Capitalism as it is, and as it is seen by the common man. I think that's dead on. That's great. So I'm going to be happy to read through this. It's also got a section here on the non-economic objections to capitalism. Okay, here is Hernando de Soto, The Other Path, The Economic Answer to Terrorism. I have another book by Hernando de Soto called The Mystery of Capital. This one, he's looking at terrorism. And interestingly, he's got quotes, he's got endorsements from both Bill Clinton and George Bush on the front cover here. One of the things he asks, I think this is the pivotal question, probably the thesis of the book, how do we create economic and social conditions in third world countries that will prevent terrorist organizations and ideas from taking root? There's a premise here. The premise here is that destitution radicalizes destitution radicalizes population, but that's not even the case, because a few people are the ones who are terrorists, not an entire culture. So, but perhaps certain conditions, social conditions, breed resentment, and a person feels that, well, I've got nothing else to do, I might as well go and serve whatever, some terrorist group and make a name for myself. You know, I'll be dead and I'll never know whether I made a name for myself or not. So, interesting. I don't know what I can't imagine his answer is going to be, well, let's increase foreign aid. I can't imagine that will be the answer, but I will be interested in what he has to say. Okay, here's that. I think that book actually was on like $1.50 or something on Amazon. Here's another one that was cheap. Actually, the next few was where I got them from Amazon for cheap. Here's Closing the Race: Self-Sabotage in Black America. This is going to be. Imagine this book annoyed a lot of people. There's a lot of people. It is politically incorrect to say that it's your fault for being lesser or doing poorly than other cultures, right? Than other races or whatever. That's politically incorrect to say that to declare someone to be responsible for something, right? So I'm interested to hear what they have to say, especially about affirmative action. Whether has affirmative action really helped along Black Americans, or has it harmed them? Has it taken away the pride of accomplishment? Because then you've got this, the culture then says, oh, he was hired or she was hired for that because he was Black, or even Obama. You should look at the statistics for Black voters and what percent of them voted for Obama, right? So does that take away the prestige of winning even the presidency when one can cite, oh look, he was favored for other reasons than his merit, right? That'll be interesting. Here's another one on the same kind of topic. It's called The Covenant. I've been giving authors. That's by John McWhorter. Let me give you the publication date. It's got to be recent. 2001. This one is by The Covenant. Actually, it might be an anthology. Yeah, it's an anthology. It's by a whole bunch of people. This one was first printed in 1967 and then reprinted in 2006. This is just the same kinds of things. It talks about healthcare. having a look at the book here, this seems to be, if I could say that the Closing the Race book is a little negative to Black Americans, this one would probably be positive to Black Americans. So that'll be a nice two books to read beside each other to get rid of their biases, right? But it's on the same kind of topics, furthering Black Americans and things like that. Here's The Digital Barbarism. I thought this was a cheap book, but I actually was interested in the topic specifically. It's called A Writer's Manifesto. It's by Mark Helprin, and it was published in 2009. This is about intellectual property. So here's the premise of the book. So it's about the Creative Commons. If you make YouTube videos like I do, they actually put this in about a year ago that you can set the different copyright levels on your videos. So the Creative Commons movement has the copyright abolitionists have been educated with a modern bias toward collaboration, which has led them to denigrate individual efforts. Digital barbarism is Helprin's cogent, powerful, and passionate response to those whose selfish desire to stick it to the greedy corporate interests controlling the distribution of intellectual property undermines not just the possibility of an independent literary culture, but threatens the future of civilization itself. Well, we'll have to see if he can make that case. But I also, even in the university setting, I hear about it. Library fees and access to journals and sticking it to students to pay for these things. So it's certainly an issue in the university. Okay, here's a few more. Let me just see. I think these are random. These are very random, except for maybe the first one is on culture, but the rest of them are kind of random. Here's The Empire of Illusion, The End of Literacy and the Triumph of Spectacle by Chris Hedges. You may know Chris Hedges. I believe this book is something that I'm very concerned about, and that is the decline of scholarship and self-study and autodidacticism, which just means that you do your own, you self-educate, kind of like what I'm trying to do, and the rise of stupid TV shows that reduce your IQ, one IQ per show, per episode. Movies that typically are just a rehash of a superhero. So Spider-Man 10 will be out in a few years. Batman, what are we at now? 5 or 6. Iron Man 4, that'll be the next one, right? They just keep making these superhero movies. At least there are heroes in art. At least we can say that, because consider a culture in which there are no heroes, and heroes are not considered great or something to aspire to be. That would be bad, but still, it's spectacle. The triumph of spectacle. The Roman arenas, right? The bread and circuses keep the people entertained. Otherwise, they're mindless, so keep them entertained. Take over the education system, so then people aren't aware, and they believe that at the end of their high school that their education career is finished, that they don't need to read a book again. And there's apparently really bad statistics about people who pick up a book again. And I don't mean a magazine, I mean a book. So this will be great, even though I don't think Chris Hedges and I will agree politically. He's probably on to something. One of the chapters is called The Illusion of Wisdom. So this is a great find. Okay, this one's on media. The next one is sort of on media. The Curse of the Mogul. What's wrong with the world's leading media companies? This is by Jonathan Nee and Greenwald and Sev. This was printed in 2009 and 2011. Okay, this is a strange one. he's talking about competition between media companies. So this is like a business book. Maybe I should have had this in business section, but yeah, he's talking about the competition between media companies, and he seems to suggest that there's the few big media companies are going to be temporary, that they're going to essentially burn down, that they're not profitable. He's got a chapter in here that says all profitable media is local. That doesn't seem to be the case. Local media, at least up in Canada, usually need to be part of a larger network or they don't make any money. So this is a weird one, but I don't really have any books on the topic. So, like, it talks about big media's false veneer of power, flying a hot air-filled Mogul balloon crashing down to Earth. So he believes that there's like a bubble generating here that's unsustainable. So, yeah, competition against media companies. Okay, here's a history book, but it's also a media book, kind of. I didn't really know where to put it, but... So here's 500 Years of Printing. This is by Steinberg. About printing, 500 years of printing. So the Nuremberg Press, you may know. Or not the Nuremberg Press. Gutenberg Press. Nuremberg Trials, I believe. This was first printed in 55. So there's the Gutenberg Press right there. The first century of printing. I'll be glad. You know, one thing I'm kind of curious about is the kinds of paper used. I believe, is it veneer? There's a kind of lambskin paper that people used to use. I'm curious about that. I think it's called veneer, but I might be wrong. Papyrus, of course, used to be used. So I'm kind of curious about that. And also, it's got in here stuff about, it says here the 19th century and after. It has in here things about censorship, so I'm interested about that as well. You may know, this would be interesting for you, you may know that American history, the beginnings of the United States, was largely driven by pamphlets. They would publish little 10-page, 20-page little papers and distribute them like flyers. Today, what are the flyers? Today, they're stupid advertisements or grocery store flyers, right? That's all you get in the mail. Back then, flyers were little documents, essays on different topics. That was the flyers of the day. I think that's really neat. So, it speaks to the culture, I think. And people used to attend town halls where they had debates. Where is that now? They don't exist. Okay, here's another random. I didn't really know where to put. This is like a memoir book, but I don't really have a memoir section. The closest might be biography, but here's a Great Railway Bazaar by Paul Theroux, I guess. This is printed in 1975, this one's 79. It says here, By Train Through Asia. This is a book simply about him going through Asia by train and just writing about what he saw and things like that. So it says here, From Elegant London to Exotic Asia Abroad, the World's Legendary Trains. Now, he couldn't have taken a train from London off the island, but the World's Legendary Trains, I don't know anything about legendary trains. So I think that might be neat to look through one day. And last one from Random. This is truly random. This was $1 or something on Amazon. But I thought, if I'm going to have anything on conspiracies, I'll have this one. So here's The Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracies. This is a short book about, let me see how many here, 27 different conspiracy theories, and about 10 or so pages on each of them with pictures. And also, one thing I thought was neat, this sold me on getting it, even though it was only $1.50 or something like that, or $2. At the end of each conspiracy, maybe I'll give you a few of them first, like the Templars. If you're familiar with Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, you'll be aware of the Templar conspiracy, the Catholic, that Jesus Christ has a descendant, that he actually married and had a child, and that living today are descendants of Jesus. That's the conspiracy. There's 9/11s in here, of course. Well, this was printed in 2009. So 9/11's in here. There's stuff in here about Bilderbergers and all that, Illuminati stuff, right? The Men in Black, the real. There's one in here about the real, what's really going on with the war on drugs and the CIA. Something about like the CIA are actually taking the drugs and then just selling them in Mexico or something like that. So anyways, at the end of every conspiracy, it actually has a rating system on the truthfulness of the conspiracy, the likelihood of it being true. And let me just, like it's got your plausibility and it's got a mark at a 10. The high strangeness, it's got a mark. And then it's got a conspiracy checklist, so it checks off whether the particular conspiracy has involved in it the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the CIA, the aliens, the occult, or the mafia. It's got little check marks if each of those things are involved or not. And then it's got, this is another nice thing, it's got for more information, it's got books you can read, and websites, and search terms, Google search terms that you can do if you really want to look more into it. Other stuff in here is conspiracies regarding murders of presidents like Kennedy, like Abe Lincoln. I think it was Kennedy, right? Jeez. It says here the magic bullets, because apparently there was something going on with the bullets. 3 shots. I don't know. I don't really want to get into it here. Something about the angle of the shot was impossible, so there was another shot or something, and I don't know. But anyways, I wanted to just give you the 9/11 one. The 9/11, like the rating plausibility. The plausibility of the 9/11 conspiracy is 7 out of 10. It says here, while some of the 9/11 truth movement's contentions are pretty outlandish, there do seem to be some disturbing, unanswered questions regarding the whole affair. Now, I have a few books on the 9/11 stuff. I haven't read any of them yet. I've got the official commission report. I've got a few other books on the topic. I've got Chomsky's 9/11, a little tiny book, maybe 80 pages or something. And yeah, so anyways, I thought that was worth having. Because one of them might be true. 27 conspiracies, one is probably true. So anyways, that's it for random culture books.